There is one zodiac sign that doesn't just remember betrayal, it becomes it. And once you've hurt them, the version of them you once knew will be gone forever. Scorpio. They are not your average soul. They are forged in the unseen flames of emotional intensity, born with one foot in the grave and the other in the stars. Scorpios don't do anything halfway. Not love, not loyalty, and certainly not revenge. They're ruled by Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. That's not just astrology, that's a warning label. Because you can joke about signs all you want, but betray a Scorpio, and it's no longer a game. What most people don't understand is that Scorpios operate on a frequency few can access. While others live on the surface, laughing, faking, pretending, Scorpio feels everything. They sense when words are hollow. They read energy before they read your face. And they remember every moment that made them doubt you. Not to punish, but because they take loyalty seriously as life and death. When a Scorpio chooses you, they're not just choosing to be in your life. They're letting you into their soul, the most sacred and protected part of themselves. That's not a casual gesture. That's a cosmic invitation. But here's what no one tells you. That same loyalty, that ride or die, soul-bound, stand-by-on-hell kind of loyalty, it has a shadow, because if you break it, if you lie, deceive, manipulate, or simply abandon them when they need you the most, they won't come after you with noise. They'll disappear. And their absence will echo louder than any argument you've ever had. And no matter how much time passes, no matter how many times you apologize, they'll never unsee the moment you showed them your real face. This video isn't just for people who want to understand Scorpio. It's for those who think they do. It's for the ex-friends, the former lovers, the backstabbers who thought a Scorpio's silence meant surrender. It never did. It meant judgment. It meant the gates were already closing. Today, I'm going to take you into the heart of Scorpio, the part few have access to and even fewer get to keep. And I will give you 12 powerful reasons why staying loyal to a Scorpio isn't just wise. It's the only way to ensure you never become a name they whisper in warning. And if you've ever had the love of a Scorpio, you know this. Losing them isn't just painful, it changes the direction of your soul. So stay until the end, because every reason I'm about to share may just be the one that saves you from becoming their next regret. Reason 1. Their loyalty isn't given. It's forged in fire. Scorpio doesn't offer their loyalty the way other signs do. It's not casual. It's not convenient. It's not cute. It's forged in fire. And only those who can survive that fire get to keep it. You see, a Scorpio's loyalty isn't earned by showing up when life is easy. It's earned when things fall apart. It's built through storms, through silence, through staying. Especially when it's easier to leave. Scorpios observe. They test your soul without ever saying a word. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for truth. Can you be real when they fall apart? Will you stay when their darkness comes out? That's the loyalty test. Because they've lived through betrayal dressed as love. They've been torn open by people who claim to care. They've walked through fire alone. So now they only walk beside those who can carry the flame with them, not run from it. When a Scorpio decides to give you their loyalty, it's not just emotional, it's spiritual. They will carry your secrets like sacred scrolls. They will bleed for your safety. They will defend your name when you're not around. And they will never let you face your battles alone. They fight for you like family, even when you forget they're there. But betray that bond, and their silence will echo longer than your apology. They won't yell. They won't make a scene. They'll just vanish, and the version of them you once knew will be dead to you. I once knew a Scorpio man, a firefighter, who spent 3 years helping his best friend get back on his feet after a divorce. He offered his couch, his money, his time, his wisdom. But when that same friend slept with the woman he secretly loved, and hid it for months, the Scorpio didn't explode. He didn't beg for closure. He simply left. Blocked. Deleted. Gone. No warning. No parting words. Just eternal absence. Because Scorpio's loyalty is like a blood pact, and betrayal is the final sin. Lesson. Real loyalty isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It shows up in silence, in suffering, in sacrifice. Scorpio reminds us that loyalty must be tested to be trusted, and once broken, it cannot be remade. So if a Scorpio gives you their loyalty, honor it like it's sacred. because it is. Reason 2. They read what you don't say. You can lie with words. You can pretend with smiles. You can fool almost anyone with a carefully curated image. But not a Scorpio, because while everyone else is listening to what you say, Scorpio is listening to the silence in between. They're watching your micro-reactions, picking up the tension in your body, hearing the slight change in your breath when you mention a certain name. They don't just read you, they decode you. Scorpios are born with a kind of X-ray vision, not the kind that sees through your clothes, the kind that sees through your soul. That's why so many people feel exposed around them, uncomfortable, even intimidated, because there's nowhere to hide. Scorpio can see the fear in your confidence, the insecurity behind your arrogance, the longing beneath your sarcasm. They know what you're not saying, and often they know it before you do. They don't just hear your, "I'm fine." They hear the heartbreak you buried 6 years ago. They don't just notice that you changed the subject. They notice why and what you're avoiding. This is why it's so dangerous to play mind games with a Scorpio, because while you're busy plotting the next move in your manipulation, they've already mapped out your entire emotional terrain. I once knew a Scorpio therapist. She never interrupted her patients, but by the second session, she knew their entire trauma timeline just by observing the way their hands moved when they spoke about certain topics. She once told me, "I don't ask questions to get answers. I ask questions to watch how the body responds. That's where the truth is." This is Scorpio's secret gift. Truth without language. They feel what's real. They know what you're hiding. And that's what makes their loyalty so rare, and their wrath so sharp. Because if you betray them, you can't just apologize. You have to face the fact that they already felt the betrayal long before it happened. And once a Scorpio sees that kind of truth in you, there's no unseeing it. Lesson: you can deceive the world, but not your energy. Scorpio teaches us that authenticity isn't about what you say. It's about the emotional signature behind every word. If you want to build trust with a Scorpio, forget the charm. Bring your truth, raw, vulnerable, and real, because anything else is just noise to them. Reason 3. A Scorpio's silence is louder than any goodbye. When most people are hurt, they lash out. They scream. They demand to be heard. They try to force closure like it's something you can bargain for. But not Scorpio. They don't need to slam a door to prove they're done. They simply stop speaking. And somehow that silence shakes your soul louder than 1,000 words ever could. Because when a Scorpio goes silent, it's not passive-aggressive. It's not about games. It's spiritual. It means something has died. Scorpio is the zodiac's ruler of death and transformation. Not always physical death, but emotional, spiritual, relational death. When a connection is poisoned beyond repair, they don't waste breath on explanations. They don't owe you a breakdown of why they left. They let their absence speak for itself, and that's what people underestimate. They think silence is weakness. They think if you're not arguing, you're not fighting. But Scorpio doesn't fight once they've seen the truth. They grieve it. Internally. Completely. A Scorpio woman once told me, "I didn't stop loving him when he lied. I stopped loving him when I realized I couldn't trust anything he said. After that, I didn't need revenge. I just needed space. Space to bury what we had." That's the kind of silence Scorpio carries. Not the cold shoulder. Not manipulation. But a deep, final, soul-level goodbye. And it's not always about betrayal either. Sometimes, Scorpio goes silent because they've grown beyond the relationship. Because the connection no longer reflects who they've become. Their silence is sacred. It's not empty. It's filled with every emotion they're no longer willing to explain. And when you reach out, when you realize what you've lost, that silence will echo back at you, again and again, like a ghost that never responds. Because if Scorpio has gone silent, that means your chapter in their story is already over. Lesson: sometimes the loudest messages are delivered in complete silence. Scorpio teaches us that closure isn't always verbal. Sometimes it's energetic. And if someone leaves you in silence, don't chase the noise. Ask yourself, what truth did they already know that you were too afraid to say? Reason 4. They'll bleed for you until you cut them. A Scorpio doesn't love halfway. When they care about you, they bleed for you, not figuratively but energetically. They'll pour their heart into your wounds. even if it means reopening their own. That's the paradox of Scorpio love. The same person who scares people with their intensity is the one who will walk through your darkness barefoot just to bring you a single light. But here's what people get dangerously wrong. They mistake that emotional fierceness for weakness. They assume that because Scorpio gives so much, they'll tolerate anything. But the truth is brutal and simple. They'll bleed for you until you cut them. And when you do, the transformation is swift. The person who once defended you against the world will become the one who disappears from yours without a sound. Not because they stopped caring, but because they finally realized you never did. Scorpio's devotion doesn't come from naivety. It comes from strength, from a place of having endured betrayal, abandonment, and rejection, and still choosing to love anyway. So when they give you their love, their loyalty, their energy, they're not doing it blindly. They're doing it with full awareness of the risks. But once that love is taken for granted, once that loyalty is mocked, manipulated, or misused, they shut the door. Not out of spite, but out of survival. I knew a Scorpio EMT who spent months supporting her partner's mental health. She missed work, lost sleep, and burned through her own peace to protect his. But when he cheated and blamed her for not being enough, she didn't scream. She didn't cry in front of him. She simply packed her things, left the apartment, and never responded again. Even when he begged, even when he showed up at her job with tears. Because once a Scorpio knows you've drawn blood from them on purpose, they don't look back. Lesson: don't mistake someone's willingness to bleed for you as permission to hurt them. Scorpio shows us that real love isn't passive. It's fierce, self-sacrificial, and protective. But once it's wounded deliberately, it retreats into silence, power, and evolution. If someone is willing to give you everything, honor it, or lose everything they were. Reason 5. You're in their soul, or you're nowhere. When a Scorpio lets you in, they don't just invite you to their life. They carve space for you in their soul. You don't just become part of their schedule, their texts, their weekends. You become part of their spiritual architecture. This is what makes Scorpio so rare and so dangerous. They don't kind of love. They don't somewhat care. If you're not in, you're out. And if they've chosen you, you're all the way in. This is not romantic fantasy. It's reality for Scorpio. Because they are ruled by Pluto, the planet of soul contracts, transformation, and deep karmic bonds. To be loved by a Scorpio is to be seen by someone who doesn't just care about who you are. They care about who you can become. And they will go to war with your demons just to protect that version of you. But the moment they realize you don't take that bond seriously, that you're half in, half out, that your promises are performances, not commitments, you vanish from their heart like you were never there. I remember a Scorpio man, an Iraq War veteran, tough as steel, quiet as a ghost, loyal to the bone. He met a woman in a grief counseling group. She had lost her brother in a motorcycle accident. He had lost 5 men in his unit. They connected over pain, the kind that no one else understands. He cooked for her, walked her dog, helped her get out of bed on the hard mornings. For 2 years he gave her everything, silently, without fanfare. Then one day he saw a message flash on her phone. A message from her ex saying, "Miss you last night." He didn't ask questions. He didn't start a fight. He simply stood up from the table, walked out of her apartment, and she never heard from him again. When her friends told her, "Just explain. It might have been a misunderstanding," she said, "No, you don't understand. I wasn't just in his life. I was in his soul. And now I'm nowhere." Because with Scorpio, there's no gray area. You're either held like sacred flame, or you're gone like dust in the wind. Lesson: some people don't love with logic. They love with eternity. Scorpio shows us that true connection isn't about attention. It's about integration. If you want to be part of a Scorpio's world, don't play halfway. Be real. Be loyal. Be soul deep. Because once they place you in their soul, losing you isn't just sad, it's surgical. Reason 6. They remember everything, especially the lies. A Scorpio never forgets. Not the way other signs say they don't forget. Scorpio remembers in silence. They remember in pattern, in tone, in timing. They remember not just what you said, but how you said it, what you didn't say, and when the energy in the room shifted ever so slightly. Scorpio's memory is a living archive of emotional truth. You might think, it's been years. They've probably moved on. But that's not how Scorpios operate. They're ruled by Pluto, the god of the underworld, the keeper of shadows. They don't bury memories. They file them, catalog them, and most importantly, they study them, especially the lies. Because to Scorpio, a lie isn't just a betrayal of truth, it's a violation of trust. And trust is everything to them. It's not given, it's sacred. So when someone lies, even about something small, Scorpio doesn't just react to the words. They react to the energetic rupture. The moment you lied, something inside them shifted. The bond cracked. And even if they didn't say a word, they felt it. And that's the most terrifying part. You won't even know they've caught you. You'll think you got away with it. You'll see them smiling, nodding, maybe even hugging you goodbye. But behind their eyes, a funeral is already happening. They're already preparing for your exit. I once met a Scorpio man, a private investigator in Los Angeles. He wasn't loud. He wasn't dramatic. But he told me something I'll never forget. I don't get angry when people lie. I get quiet, because once they lie, I know who they are. And after that, there's nothing left to argue. He told me about a time he dated a woman who claimed she was over her ex. He never questioned her. Until one day, he noticed she always put her phone face down. He never asked why. He simply logged it. Then noticed her mood shifts around the same time every Thursday. Again logged it. He didn't snoop. He didn't accuse. He just watched. And one Thursday while out together, he casually said, "Is he going to message you tonight?" She froze. He didn't wait for her to speak. He paid the bill, drove her home, and never spoke to her again. That's Scorpio. You never see the moment they leave, because they never make it a show. They leave in spirit long before they walk out the door. This is why lying to a Scorpio is one of the greatest mistakes you can make. Not just because they'll remember, but because they'll never look at you the same again. You'll still be in their life, but never in their soul. Not ever again. Lesson. Scorpio teaches us that honesty is not just a virtue. It's a frequency. Once trust is broken, there are no shortcuts back. You can't perform your way into their heart again. You must live in integrity from the beginning, or risk losing something far more permanent than affection, their respect. Because in the Scorpio world, forgiveness might be offered, but access? Never. Reason 7. They love deeper than anyone, but that depth can drown you. To be loved by a Scorpio is to be seen. Completely. Not the version of you the world applauds, but the version you hide. The wounded, trembling, insecure, chaotic you. And still they don't run. They dive into the darkest part of you like it's sacred territory. Scorpio doesn't love from the surface. They don't flirt around the edges of your personality. They dive to the bottom of your ocean, and they expect you to do the same. Their love is not light and airy. It's gravity. Pulls you in body and soul, and for a moment you forget where you end and they begin. People say they want a love that consumes them, until they meet a Scorpio. Then they realize this isn't a game. This is transformation. And transformation hurts. When a Scorpio loves you, it's like being wrapped in fire and ice at the same time. They will hold your pain like their own. They will read your silences like poetry. They will remember the smallest details you thought no one noticed. They will stare into your eyes and see the version of you that even you haven't met yet. But here's the warning no one gives you. If you're not ready to be seen that fully, that deeply, their love will terrify you. Because Scorpio's love doesn't adjust for your comfort. Challenges you. It strips away your masks. It demands your truth. And that's where many people drown. Not because Scorpio was cruel, but because they weren't ready to be loved so completely that it exposed every lie they told themselves. I knew a Scorpio man once, a combat medic turned yoga instructor. He fell in love with a woman who had never truly been cared for. She came from abandonment. She didn't believe love could last. He, on the other hand, was relentless in his devotion. He would show up with tea when she was sick. He memorized her childhood fears. He sat with her when she couldn't speak, just breathing with her until the panic passed. But one night she snapped, told him he was too much, that he made her feel naked, that she didn't know who she was when she was with him. He didn't argue. He didn't chase. He just nodded, kissed her forehead, and left. Years later, she told me, his love cracked something open in me. I thought I wanted real love, until I met it. Then I realized I had no idea how to receive it. Lesson: Scorpio teaches us that true love isn't always comforting. It's revealing. It mirrors our shadows, holds up the truth, and asks, can you love yourself the way I love you? If you're not ready for soul-deep connection, don't reach for Scorpio's heart. Because once they love you, you will never forget how deep it went, even if you couldn't stay. Reason 8. Once you lose their trust, you lose your access to the divine. To be trusted by a Scorpio is a kind of blessing most people don't understand until it's gone. Because when a Scorpio trusts you, they don't just tell you secrets, they invite you into their sacred space. A space no one else is allowed to enter. A realm that blends passion with prayer, silence with soul. It is quite literally access to the divine. Trust for Scorpio isn't transactional. It isn't casual. It's spiritual. It's something they build in the shadows with hands that have bled, with hearts that have survived every kind of betrayal you can imagine. They don't trust because it's easy. They trust because they've chosen to believe in someone again. And that belief? It's sacred. But once you violate that trust, whether by a lie, a manipulation, or even a single act of cowardice, you don't just lose their affection, you lose your invitation to their inner temple, and nothing can buy your way back in. There was a Scorpio woman I knew, a hospice chaplain. She carried the weight of people's last words, final breaths, dying regrets. She held those energies like sacred fire. Outside of work, she was calm, elegant, graceful. Until one day, she discovered that her closest friend, someone she had comforted during her divorce, helped raise her children, and trusted with her rawest grief, had repeated something she shared in confidence. Not to be malicious, just to vent, just to feel important. But for the Scorpio woman, that wasn't a small error. That was desecration. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't shame her. She just looked at her quietly and said, "You had the key to my temple, and you dropped it in the dirt." That was it. 20 years of friendship gone. Not out of ego, but because some altars once violated are never lit again. And that's what people don't realize. To be trusted by a Scorpio is to be chosen by a soul that has survived death and still believes in resurrection. But once you show you're careless with that gift, you don't just fall from their favor, you fall from their universe. They don't hate you, they just transcend you. Lesson: some people trust out of habit. Scorpio trusts as an act of sacred surrender. If someone gives you that kind of trust, treat it like the holy ground it is. Because once you betray it, no amount of apologies will ever grant you access again. You didn't just lose a person, you lost a portal to the divine. Reason 9. They protect you like no other, until you become the enemy. When a Scorpio loves you, they become your shield. They will stand between you and the world, between your fear and your future, between your mistakes and the consequences. They will fight battles you didn't even know were coming. Not because you asked, but because they felt the threat before you could name it. Scorpio is the zodiac's silent guardian. They don't brag about what they do for you. They don't tally what they've sacrificed. They simply defend. With ferocity, with focus, with the kind of love that says, if anything comes for you, it comes through me first. But here's what no one tells you. The same force they use to protect you, they'll use to destroy you, if you become the threat. Because Scorpio doesn't protect blindly. They protect with purpose. They assess, they sense, they evaluate. And if you, the person they once fought for, suddenly become the source of their pain, they'll switch roles so fast it will leave you breathless. They won't argue. They won't warn you. They'll just step back. And the shield that once stood before you will now face you. I once knew a Scorpio man, a trauma surgeon in New Orleans. He was known for being cold in the but outside, he was fiercely loyal to his younger brother, who'd struggled with addiction for years. He paid for rehab, took him into his own home, vouched for him when no one else would. He protected him from the judgment of the family, from the system, from himself. Then one night, after returning from a 36-hour shift, he found his safe opened, cash gone, a watch that belonged to their late father missing. He didn't shout. He didn't call the cops. He simply waited. And when his brother came home, high with excuses trembling on his tongue, the Scorpio didn't flinch. He said only this: "You're no longer someone I need to protect. You've become what I need to protect myself from." That was it. The door closed. The phone numbers blocked.
No hatred.
Just the clean precision of self-preservation. Because Scorpio's protection isn't blind loyalty. It's sacred discernment. And when the line is crossed, their sword is sharper than their shield ever was. Lesson: Scorpio teaches us that real protection isn't about saving others at any cost. It's about knowing when someone has become the very danger they once feared. To be protected by a Scorpio is a gift. But to become their enemy is to face the same force that once kept you safe, now aimed at your deception. Reason 10. They transform pain into power. Yours too. Pain is where most people break. But for Scorpio, pain is where they begin. They don't avoid it. They don't numb it. They walk straight into it, because they know something most people don't. Within every wound is a hidden doorway to power. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of destruction and rebirth. This isn't a metaphor. It's a pattern woven into their DNA. Every Scorpio has walked through a personal hell, and every Scorpio has returned from that hell, sharper, quieter, more precise, more powerful. But here's what sets them apart. They don't just transform their pain, they transform yours too. When you're shattered, Scorpio doesn't pity you. They see you, not as broken, but as molten, ready to be reshaped into something stronger. They won't offer you easy comfort. They won't sugarcoat your wounds. Instead, they'll sit with you in the ashes, not saying much, just being there, unflinching, present, waiting for your strength to awaken again. I knew a Scorpio woman, a combat veteran who became a grief counselor. She had seen death, brutality, betrayal, but she spoke with the calm of someone who had made peace with darkness. One of her clients was a young widower who had lost his wife in a car accident. He told her he didn't want to survive, that he couldn't feel anything but guilt and rage. She didn't try to fix him, didn't tell him to move on or think positive. She simply said, "You're not supposed to survive this as the same man. You're supposed to become someone else, someone only this pain could create." Months passed. He didn't just recover. He became a counselor himself. The pain didn't disappear. It transformed, because someone had seen power in his darkest place. That's what Scorpio does. They don't rescue. They resurrect. They take your rawest grief and help you burn it into something divine, something no one can take from you again. But understand this. They can only do this for people who are willing to face their shadows. If you hide from your pain, Scorpio won't chase you. But if you walk into it with them, they will forge you into something the world can't break. Lesson: Scorpio reminds us that pain isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of transformation. If you allow it, your deepest wounds can become your greatest weapons. And if a Scorpio stands beside you during that journey, you won't just survive, you'll evolve. Reason 11. They're your shield until you turn sword against them. There is no fiercer protector than a Scorpio, and no deadlier opponent. Because when they love you, they shield you not just from the world but sometimes even from yourself. They'll absorb the blows, take the heat, stand between you and the chaos without asking for credit. But there's a line, and if you ever cross it, if you ever betray the hand that defended you, they won't just walk away. They'll show you what it means to be on the wrong side of their loyalty. Scorpio is loyal to a fault, until the fault becomes a weapon turned back on them. That's the thing people forget. Their loyalty isn't mindless. It's selective, intense, and earned. And once you reveal that you were never worthy of it, they don't argue. They don't scream. They transform. I once knew a Scorpio woman who worked as a high-level security consultant. She was intelligent, private, and ruthless when she needed to be. But with her partner, she was soft. She supported his business, protected his reputation, even kept silent when he was dealing with legal issues. But then she discovered that he had been using her name to open accounts behind her back, hiding money, manipulating trust, planning his exit with a mask of love still on his face. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even confront him immediately. Instead, she spent one weekend gathering every piece of evidence, locked down every financial tie, notified every legal advisor, then sat across from him on Monday morning with papers, passwords, and silence. When he asked, "Why are you doing this?" she said, "You turned your sword on the person who stood between you and war. Now face what it feels like to have that shield removed." That's Scorpio. They won't become your enemy because they're vengeful. They'll become your enemy because you chose that role. They are your protector, until protecting you means betraying themselves. And once that shift happens, they'll use the same strength that once saved you to bury the connection that hurt them. Lesson: Scorpio shows us that protection is not weakness. It's a sacred responsibility. But loyalty without boundaries is self-destruction. So if someone has defended you, uplifted you, and fought for you, don't mistake their kindness for permission to cut them. Because once the protector becomes the opponent, the damage is irreversible. Reason 12. A loyal Scorpio is a lifetime blessing. A betrayed one is a cosmic curse. There are people you meet in life who feel destined. They enter quietly without announcement, but somehow they change everything. Your heart, your mind, your direction. That's what a loyal Scorpio is. They don't just come into your life. They enter your soul. They become your mirror, your shield, your shadow, your guide. They will defend you when others run. They will believe in you when even you don't. They will take your chaos, your trauma, your flaws, and still call you home. A loyal Scorpio is not just a friend. They are a force, a sacred alignment, a soul contract forged long before you met in this lifetime. But if you betray that, if you lie, deceive, manipulate, cheat, use, or abandon them, you don't just lose them. You awaken something ancient in them, something primal, something karmic, something cosmic. Scorpio is the sign ruled by death and rebirth, but also by karma. They don't chase vengeance like a child throwing tantrums. No, they become silent, focused, aligned with something bigger than this moment. And that silence is not empty. It's ancestral. I once heard the story of a Scorpio healer, a Reiki master who lived in the mountains of Colorado. She gave everything to the man she loved, helped him recover from addiction, introduced him to spiritual work, brought him back to life. He called her my angel in public, but behind closed doors he was draining her light to feed his ego. One day she caught him mocking her in a group chat, screenshots, jokes, lies. She didn't confront him. She didn't beg for honesty. Instead, she cleared the altar, shut the doors, moved out silently in the night. A month later, his life began to unravel. Business lost. Friend circle collapsed. Legal trouble appeared out of nowhere. No one could explain it, except her. She whispered to a friend, "When you betray a Scorpio who was sent to bless you, you don't just lose a person. You lose divine protection." Lesson: Scorpio teaches us that not all blessings look like miracles. Sometimes they come as people. Fierce, loyal, powerful, whose presence is the answer to a prayer you didn't know you whispered. Honor them, because if you betray that gift, you don't just walk away. You walk into a karmic reckoning. A loyal Scorpio is a spiritual contract, and if you break it, you break something in the universe itself. Final reflection: the soul contract with Scorpio. Now you know, loving a Scorpio isn't just about chemistry. It's about entering into a soul contract, one that isn't written on paper, but carved into time, memory, loyalty, and pain. Through every one of these 12 truths, you've seen that Scorpio isn't here to play games. They are here to awaken you, to test you, to transform you. If you are loyal to them, they will go to war for your healing. They will hold your soul like sacred fire. They will love you through storms, shadows, and silence. But if you betray them, you don't just lose a person. You lose a guardian, a protector, a mirror of your deepest self. Because Scorpio's love is a reflection of the divine, and divine love does not tolerate deception. So if a Scorpio still loves you, cherish it. If you've lost one, learn from it. And if you've never met one, ask yourself, are you ready to be loved at a level that demands your whole truth? Because to love a Scorpio is to be reborn, and not everyone survives that fire. Closing invitation to the viewer. If this video stirred something in you, a memory, a truth, a warning, or a longing, tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced the soul of a Scorpio? Or Has a Scorpio ever silently disappeared from your life? Don't forget to subscribe for more truths that pierce the surface and speak straight to the soul. Because this isn't just astrology, this is spiritual remembering. You are now walking the path to Buddha wisdom, and the journey has only just begun.